Good evening, everybody. We're going to get started. We're a small crew tonight, and I should introduce myself. I'm Nadine Slimak. I'm the Vice President of the board, and Deb is back in the little acoustic booth back there where I usually hide out during meetings, and she's not feeling well today, so she asked me to take over. So you're stuck with me. So here we go. Tonight's meeting is a pretty easy agenda, and we're hoping you all take center stage. But just as a reminder, please mute your phones so it doesn't carry over on the live stream. And here's our agenda. Welcome call to order, of course. I'm going to introduce Steve to give the treasurer's report. I've got a few announcements, and then we're going to get straight into talking about 2025. So with that, I'm going to introduce Steve Eldridge. He's our treasurer, if you haven't met him before, and there's our treasurer report up online. Steve, will you grab a mic? And just a reminder, when we are getting to the public comment period, please walk up to the mic and use that. That way people on the live stream on Facebook can hear you.
So when I sent this today, it didn't have all those...
Steve, can you come over here? Otherwise, you're off camera.
Can't see? Okay. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So at any rate, all the grammar stuff that's on that wasn't dated. So I don't know how that happened. But please just look past the blue. And I almost can't read it from here. But hello? Hello? Okay, yeah, so now you can hear. That's great. So my report's for the end of November, so just a couple of days ago, and you can see the beginning balance for our checking account at Truist, and we also have a balance at First Horizon of $1,000, and then we have cash in the box. And so that was October 31st number, and we had a couple of deposits. So a deposit really for us is somebody writes a check, somebody gives us cash for a membership. I make that deposit directly at the bank. You can also see kind of in the middle of the two deposits there, you can see a Zephy entry. Zephy is the service that we use in order to have you pay your dues online. So you'll see $25 for Zephy, a deposit of $25, which was a family membership, and then there were, I think, a couple of family memberships and a couple of individual memberships on the 14th of the month. So our total income was, I think, from here $130, if I'm not mistaken. Expenses, we only had two. We pay the church $100 a month so we can use their facilities. And there's web hosting, which Nadine does just a wonderful job with our website. We pay them, it looks like now we're paying them monthly about $38. I think it's $138 in total expenses. And then you get the balances down at the... Okay. You get the balances down at the bottom. I always add those three together to come up with the ending checking and cash balance so we sort of know what we have in terms of liquid reserves before we'd have to go to our money market or certificate of deposit. And so that's $2,817.19, if I'm not mistaken. I summarized on the second page. Maybe part of all the blue that you see there is the fact that I tried to make it a little bigger because I come every month and I can barely read it from where I am, and I know it becomes trouble for you. So just sort of a rehash on the second page there. You can see our money market has a balance of, and I can't even read it from here, but it looks like 69? 69.38. Okay, thank you. And we do have two certificate of deposits. We have one for $80,000, and we have a second one for $10,000. And you can see if you look at a bit of the detail there that We have one that matures both of them mature in just a couple of days, one on the 8th and one on the 10th, and I will go ahead and renew both of those because as a board, we've decided if we have roughly $10,000 in accessible funds at any point in time, we feel pretty comfortable. And if you take the checking balance and the cash, and then you take the money market together, all of which we can write checks on instantaneously, we're pretty close to our $10,000. So if the number went above that, we'd probably invest that in another certificate of deposit. But I'll be looking between those two banks in the next couple of days, looking at rates, looking at maturities and things like that, and I'll roll those forward. Well, yeah, I have not checked for upcoming. You know, I've just now started paying attention as I drive around the city in terms of what people have posted on the boards. I saw a 7-month CD at $475 the other day. So, yeah, not too bad. I wouldn't expect, even though the Fed has actually lowered rates and rates have come down just a little bit, there's concern and talk about the Fed, not really pushing rates down too much faster. And so I think we're going to kind of be in the 4 range. Where that turns out to be, I don't know. And if you've been here, I did a lot of work this year on a couple of aspects. One, our money market was paying us like 0.01%. I got a nice question from somebody right after I'd taken over the treasurer's job and said, what rate are you being paid? And I finally looked and it was 0.01. And I went in there and got them to up that to 3.5%. So with a couple of things, we're now starting to earn current market rates on everything except for our cash on hand in our checking accounts at the 2 locations. So any other questions? Thanks.
He leaves it working. Okay. This one over here. We're doing our Adopt a Road cleanup tomorrow, and Ellen, raise your hand. She's the one who coordinates this for us. God bless her. We'll be at the post office in Bokeelia starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. So just show up and join us. Bring gloves and wear closed-toed shoes and all the usual stuff. And then if you want to look at the dates for our upcoming cleanups, January 8th, February 5th, and March 5th. It's always the Wednesday after our meetings, unless we've had to reschedule our regular meeting. Next up, if you haven't taken it yet, please take our resiliency survey. We're really trying to gather information on how residents are doing and figure out what areas of the island are struggling with, and we can't do that without input. So I hope if you've taken it, please ask your neighbors to take it. If you haven't taken it, please do. And there's QR codes on the screen. You can take a quick picture with your phone and use them later. We also have it posted on our website at www.gpica.org. Next up, we have a holiday gift for Pine Islanders. You don't have to be a member, although we hope you'll join if you're not. We bought some of the Florida native pines through the State Department of Agriculture sale, and we'll be picking them up this week. We're working with the Garden Club, and the Calouse Land Trust are also giving us some support. So we'll be potting the seedlings on Saturday, and you can pick up between 1 and 5. The Garden Club of Pine Island is really helping us out a great deal with this. And we also want to thank Pine Island Feed. They're giving us a discount on the dirt for the pots. And we want to thank Fruitscapes, too. They're also helping us with the pots. They're hoping to get some of them back, but they're donating them, and so we really appreciate their help. So this is for all Pine Islanders. All you have to do is, if you want to spread the cheer, right, bring a food donation, and we'll get it to one of our local pantries where folks need help. So, again, just show up between 1 and 5 on Saturday, December 14th at the Garden Club's plot near Phillips Park. So if you have any questions, see me afterward. Oh, go ahead. The idea, thank you. The question was whether people had to keep them or could pot them. The problem is they need to be watered continuously until rainy season hits. So that's why we're putting them in pots. So you can keep them watered for 6 months until whenever rainy season kicks in, and then go ahead and put it in your yard. I bet you have a friend or neighbor that might adopt for you and keep it watered. So we'll be creating kind of a video with directions on the best practices, like where to plant it. But I bet you the couple behind you with the Calusa Land Trust might offer some tips on some locations you could plant. Calusa Land Trust will be doing their, I think they're going to have planting parties later in the year. So I bet you could dig in and help them out too. So yeah. Yes, I know. Sorry. There's a couple of other, before I get to our reminders, there's a couple of other announcements I forgot to add to my slides tonight. One, I'm going to be sending out a big notice for membership renewal, hopefully this month if I have time. We're way far behind. People are way far behind in keeping up with their membership, and I can't imagine why. We haven't had like 60 hurricanes out here, right? So if you'll get the notice, we can do online renewals, and that's really where we're focused right now, is just doing it online just to ease what we have to do. So you'll get a notice with a link in it. You can pay online. And then I just want to say, if you get a notice in error saying you owe membership dues and you think you don't, you can just email us and we'll check it and make sure our records are correct. I think that was the only announcement. Was there anything else, you guys? Oh, yes. And we have a new system for online renewal. It's called Zephy. And when you fill it out, it automatically wants to charge a donation. And that actually goes to Zephy. We don't pay any processing fees through this system. So you just have to make sure to knock that donation down to zero. It does not come to us. It goes to support the Zephy service, which frankly, as a nonprofit, we appreciate, because we were being charged 3% and some change for online processing through our other service. So, if you're feeling good and you want to donate, go ahead and do it. I'm sure they would be happy. But yeah, just make sure when you're looking before you hit the final checkout to turn that off. So, okay. And with that, just a reminder, I don't think, there's any controversy going on tonight, but everybody please be cordial and nice. And now here's where we want you to take center stage tonight. What we really want to talk about is where the Civic Association should focus its efforts in 2025. There are lots of things out here that are happening. There's development, there's resiliency. We have hurricanes here again, and a whole host of other things. So what we really want to do is we want to hear from you guys. What do you think is important? What do you want to see us tackle? What are some issues you're having in your own neighborhood that you think we might be able to help with? I don't want to get down to, house level, like I hate my neighbor kind of stuff, right? That's not why we're here. but we really do, like, if there are neighborhood issues that you're being affected by, and there are things, and if there are things we can do, that's why we're here. We want to help the community. We want to make it better. So. Oh, so the question from the audience is what happened with the Chiquita Lock situation in Cape Coral and how much it cost.
Tell you what happened in the case, and then Steve can tell you how much we spent. The case was decided sometime this summer, and it was decided by the administrative law judge that the Cape was able to get the permit to remove the lock. So essentially the petitioners, who ended up being 3 residents of Cape Coral, who happened to be fishermen. So that was the case was originally had more entities in it, but they dropped out early on. So the case was lost. There was a point in time when the Cape Coral attorneys asked the attorneys for the lock, the petitioners, basically Mike Hannon from Matlacha, to never ever again bring a case against Cape Coral with respect to environmental issues. Or, if he didn't do that, they were going to take action against the 3 fishermen. Basically, that was an unethical request. You can't ask an attorney not to take a case. And it was the other attorney, John Thomas was involved in that too. He was the paid attorney. Mike Cannon was the attorney that did most of his work gratis. So that happened sometime a couple of months ago. At this moment, the city of Cape Coral has decided to sue the 2 attorneys and the 3 fishermen for court costs. So that was filed. An appeal was just filed right after Thanksgiving, and the consequence of all of that is that they're trying to there's a fundraiser for one of the fishermen to try to raise funds for the attorney that has been needed to file the appeal. The appeal is in a different court. According to some people close to the case, they think it's a no-brainer. It's an easy decision, but it's up to the courts. So that's where the case stands. The locks have already, there have been bids to do the removal. I believe they've started demolition, so the locks are coming out.
They'll be out, if I remember correctly, by April. And, you know, I know friends that live on the other side of the lock, and there's now a whole cottage industry in boat lifts on this side of the lock, or that side, whatever side it is, because people are, for 3 months, are kind of going to be stuck. They can't get through. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the court costs, I was going to bring this up a minute ago, is about $1.5 million.
Yeah, it's close to
I think the Florida Phoenix actually did a story talking about Cape Coral suing the fishermen who brought the suit, and the estimate in that story was close to $2 million because they had 6 attorneys working on it. So basically, it was David and Goliath. We had John Thomas, and Mike Hannon was doing everything pro bono, so he wasn't getting any fees, and so that's that. And the other side had 6 or 7 attorneys working on it. This is actually their scorched earth tactics. I mean, this is they bill so high, and they do this to try and intimidate residents like us into not filing or not, talking back, right? Sit down and shut up, you little kid, right? So,
well, but isn't that also the result of the state passing some sort of legislation that they can fall back on?
Yes.
That allows them to push back to the people that lose the case.
Right. This is why we were wary as an organization to sign on by name. We encouraged our members to donate, and the board, through our membership fund, we donated money, but we could not sign on because it would have bankrupted the organization. And, it's not like we're sitting on a pile anyway.
And so we backed out. Matlacha Civic Association,
Sanibel Captiva Conservation Foundation was initially involved. They had to back out.
And the 3 fishermen stayed.
And the 3 fishermen stayed,
and it's their worst nightmare.
That's what they're dealing with.
And one of those 3 fishermen just happened to. One of those 3 fishermen, Dan Carney, just happened to win an award today. A volunteer award for Volunteer of the Year for ENPY, and I'm not sure what that stands for, but it's a local organization. So, yeah.
So we spent $10,000 And obviously some of that money went to John Thomas. It all went to John Thomas because Mike was working pro bono.
Mike was working pro bono, so that was attorney's fees, or if they had to hire experts. I mean, you can imagine. I know. I think did Kevin Irwin, was he one of their experts? Because I'm assuming Kevin Irwin volunteered. Kevin Irwin actually was with the DEP when the DEP forced that lock to be put into place. And, you know, so yeah, check out that Florida Phoenix story. I think I posted it on our website in our December agenda. So you can read more about that there. The other issue, you know, speaking of development and government overreach, I don't know if you're following what is happening with the South Seas Plantation out on Captiva with the building heights and building densities, but they're basically looking at, I think, an increase of 500 or so residents out there under the new building height regulations. And so there's a coalition out on Captiva that includes Sanibel also, that are trying to fight those changes, and that's working its way through legal channels as well right now. And so we're keeping an eye on it. I think it's got implications for what could happen to us out here. I mean, we're fortunate we don't have a beach, so not everybody has found us, but given how overdeveloped some of the other islands are in Florida, I think we're the largest barrier island in the state on the West Coast. So we look pretty attractive. So we just one of those things that we try to keep an eye on. Sure. You think we should be looking at? Obviously, we're always keeping an eye on development issues and zoning issues out here. Frankly, we could use some help with that. So if you're interested, join us. Get in touch with us through our info@gpica.org, and we'll add you to our committee. And go ahead. The county has contracted with debris removal crews, but they don't have very many crews working across the county right now because we're not accepting FEMA reimbursement. Is that how it's working, Steve?
Yeah, all I heard, and I heard this at the MCA meeting, so the Matlacha Civic Association meeting, that Kevin Ruane, I believe, actually stated that the county is not getting reimbursed for any of this pickup, unlike Ian, where they kept good track of it and they got reimbursed fully for all of it. They didn't here. And so they made kind of an initial pass, and they have been really slow. I literally have hauled stuff away for people in my neighborhood that's been sitting there for a month and a half. I would think demolition, that's the responsibility. Now,
I feel like the contractor should have carried that away,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It was
actually from Hurricane Ian, and the property has been sitting, and the structure has been deteriorating, and then we had Helene, and then we had Milton, and finally somebody has come in and said, okay, it's time to tear this thing down. And they tore it down, but they just hauled everything to the side of the road.
So I think what we can do as an organization is reach out to Kevin Ruane at the Lee County Commission. He's our guy. He's watching out for us, so we can reach out to him, and also solid waste. Because even if it's not a regular solid waste pickup, they still do run those things, so we can reach out there. The other thing I want to, just while I'm thinking about it, the debris removal site on Pine Island across from the Publix is closing at 5 o'clock on Sunday. So It's closing for good, and just if you have debris you want to haul yourself, get it there before Sunday at 5. Go ahead and join us.
Yeah, you have to.
I did contact Kevin's office about debris pickup, and I got a response. There's no way to contact him.
Response.
The response was, we don't have a phone number to contact him. They said they couldn't do anything. They said, how do I touch him? And call him. We don't know. So I called solid waste, and that was a waste as well, because they had no way to contact him. Lee County. I contacted Kevin first. They had no way to contact the people picking the trash up after Milton. Then I called solid waste, and they had no way to contact them.
Okay, well,
So it's like
we'll
somewhere Leah's County is paying the bill,
see
or
what we
someone's
can
paying the bill,
do. Yeah.
and there was no way to contact them. I mean, this is silliness.
Yes.
So
Nadine,
agree. Yeah.
I was going to ask this question too. I happened to be on a street up near the fish streets that was close enough to the water that people got damage. So the whole rest of the neighborhood is fine, except for one street, which is back in the mangroves. So nothing's happened by my street. And so the question is, for example, I guess, can we get an answer that the trash will eventually be picked up? Because if this off-site thing is closing in less than a week, then we're stuck paying not only for the transportation but also the
haul away.
the fees for the dump fees. Yeah.
Right.
And it's not inconsequential. Because I have all my lower level outside by the street.
Right.
And so I guess it's kind of a planning issue. If it's never going to happen, then we'll find a way to get it out to the dump site before they close. There are lots of, and I've been driving around Pine Island today, there are lots of trash piles still around.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how they identify them, how they know where to look for them. I mean, I don't know.
Well, maybe we can help and become a central clearinghouse. Don't start sending us information yet, but we'll talk to Kevin in the county and see if that's something we need to do. We can, and frankly, solid waste is solid waste. I would encourage you to call.
I'd like
And
to.
and illegal dumping is also an issue. I know people have reported that. If you go to our Facebook page, there's a flyer with a county phone number you can call to report illegal dumping. So I would say if you see it in action, take a picture, get a license plate, and maybe something will happen with that.
So when it comes to like the dump, keep in mind that if it's not being used is why they're closing it down. It's not as busy or something like that. If there's enough community outreach to, hopefully we'll get a proper contact if it's the county on the local dump. Maybe they'll keep it open a little longer if there's a community need. And that's the hard part. If it's not busy, they're wasting their money and resources. So if you still have a need for it, reach out to Commissioner Ruane. And
Yeah, I feel like nobody wants to haul their trash because they're waiting for everybody, or they're waiting for the crews to come by and pick it up.
Last
So-
time I heard when it came to FEMA is that they weren't completely reimbursed or very minimally reimbursed for the cleanup last time. So my guess is that that's why it's a lot slower this time, or the response to it is because people are concerned about who is going to reimburse who. That was from still Ian, and of course this is new, but money's money to folk. So
I would also say that depending on how much you have, sometimes the pile's this big, but if you have stuff that you can put in your trash cans, the normal people that come by and pick up trash will take stuff in trash cans. So if you just have a little, get it into the trash can and it'll get hauled away. If it's big, then that's a whole nother problem.
I was on the county website just 2 days ago, and it said, "Please be patient. Debris will be picked up." But it didn't have any kind of date that was the.
Maybe we can at least get a timeline on
Yeah.
how they're working around the county and where they're focusing. So
Right.
that way, at least there's an end in sight. Maybe, okay, so it'll be February or whatever. You know,
Right.
it would be helpful to know, I think.
It would. And I was, I'm on the same thread as Marion. I live close to her, and there are a lot of houses that have yet to be demoed from Ian. And I'm just, I
Are you
came
guys
here
on
to-
Pine Island proper or in Matlacha?
We're in Flamingo Bay.
Okay.
And I just wondered, and I don't expect, you guys to have any pull or something, but I thought maybe the rules as far as how long do people have, and
This is a good question. I know Matlacha has been trying to stay on top of this issue because obviously they had a lot of houses that were really severely damaged. And so I don't think we as an organization have really kept up that much. So I think that's something we can look into. I would say if there are particular streets or particular areas, like knowing it's Flamingo Bay is helpful, we can ask the question. And again, if what we can do is facilitate information for the community, that's what we want to do also. So, and also I think one of the things we're hoping to do next year is work with the Matlacha Civic Association more closely on community-wide issues where we're all impacted. And this could be one of the issues we take on. I think we were talking about resiliency being one of them. But again, if we have a lot of houses that are in need of demo and are eyesores and becoming a public nuisance, as I'm sure they are 2 years after Ian, maybe if we all as a community work together, we can get some movement on that issue.
I just wanted to add, I was at the Matlacha Civic Association meeting, 6 weeks ago. It was the open forum in the parking lot that got kind of heated, the statement or one of the questions was, how long is it going to take to get rid of these houses that are in the water in Matlacha? And the county basically said there's a process, and that process involved the homeowner and insurance companies, and it took a long time. And unfortunately, the person who was from the county didn't even have a number for how long it would take, how many years it would take, and that generated some controversy. But the bottom line is, I know in Matlacha, the first thing that was done was one of the members of the Civic Association went out and found the 20 most egregious houses and sent that list to the county, and the county said, good news, I never knew about this. So I don't know if that's been rectified. I wouldn't be surprised if it hasn't, but perhaps us just sending them a list of, at least, are they on a list of, because it does go through, the homeowner gets there's a bunch of notifications. The homeowner gets notified, then the homeowner has a right to respond, and there's a back and forth that takes a long time. And that's the process. Unfortunately, the people in the neighborhood have no process. They get to look at that for years.
So before you talk, Bob, I'll just give you the rest of that story. If you, Leo, did you attend that meeting? The one that Sue? Oh my goodness. There were 100 people there, and there were all kinds of people from the county. And Sue's absolutely right. People said, okay, there's a process. So at what point? Tell me time when things start happening through the process where the county kind of takes over. And the young lady said, I don't know. And the place went crazy, just went crazy. But here's the rest of the story. The rest of the story is, most of you might not even recognize it, but Hooked was halfway in the water, and that's sort of the poster child. Well, it disappeared one day. And so I asked Carol Scott about that, what happened at the last meeting. And because of that meeting, where people went crazy because didn't know the process, 5 days after that, on a Saturday, the county showed up and they took that building down. Carol Scott didn't know they were coming. They didn't tell her, but I think they were embarrassed, and so they took some action. So there is a point, and maybe that's something that everybody should understand, where if you are vociferous enough and you go after them enough, they will take action. But I pretty much found, at least myself on Pine Island, if you don't complain and you don't repetitively complain, nothing will happen. You talk to them once, yeah, sure, we're going to get to it. I have been calling about the swales in our neighborhood because they get backed up, and I called in June, and I called in July, and I called in September, and I just talked to Jesse 2 days ago. Oh, yeah, we're getting out there. We've got other things from the hurricanes. I said, well, I filed a complaint. Doesn't it just go in order?
Our swales cleaned up like 2 weeks ago, so maybe your your call worked in my neighborhood.
I don't know. My point is that the squeaky wheel, and you've got to be very, very, very squeaky, will get some results.
Well, and I think this kind of goes back to the point of why we want to work more closely with the other organizations on the island, right? More public involvement. I know I appreciate everybody who's here tonight, but where's the rest of the island? We want you to get involved too. So I'm sorry, Bob, go ahead.
I just wanted to make clear that the county has made dumping for people's hurricane debris down here across from Publix, and the Clutha Land Trust preserves is not one of the dump sites, and we've had people dumping on our preserves, and it's not that much further to come up here and dump at the site. I've been there several times with my stuff to keep my front yard clear, and it's not that hard to do it. If you got the trailer, you can haul it down there, and they're very easy to work with. So
Vendors are always willing to help out a neighbor, in my experience.
Yeah.
Oh, you got a truck? Sure, bring it on over, and they show up for you.
But if we want to move on to another subject, while I'm on the land trust, talking about what the community can do, we've been working for about 7 years on a piece of property that's 56 acres of pines and palmettos on the island. It's probably one of the last natural pieces of Pine Island left. And right now, the Clutha Land Trust couldn't afford it at $2.5 million. But we've worked with the homeowners to get it in front of 2020. 2020 is working through the legal clarification of some of the titles and stuff because it's in a trust. The hearing should be coming up to the committee, a presentation to the committee, which will then, if they accept it, will go to the county commissioners. And if the community would like to support something that's, I think, critical as a native Pine Islander, I want to save the pines, not the palms, but the pines. And this is one of the last big pieces, beautiful piece of property that's available. And it's prime development. But once it's cleared, it's gone.
Can you tell us about where it is?
Straight across from Winn-Dixie, across on the other side of Stringfellow from Winn-Dixie, between the shrimp farm and the other things. It's beautiful. I've walked it 3 times, and it's gorgeous. So when that comes up, and I'll be doing a presentation to the 2020 committee for the homeowners or landowners to do that. But it's been 7, 8 years. It's been longer than that. We started back talking to them, and it got denied back in 1999. But it's back again now, and we need to preserve it if we can, or else it'll become a shrimp farm or
So,
something.
Bob, what do you want from us?
It will be community support at the hearings and stuff.
And when are they?
I will know as soon as they get it set, because right now they're still
Okay.
trying to work the legal
Okay.
stuff.
You'll let...
Yeah, I'll let somebody know.
Yeah.
Yes.
Send it out to our members. I know Paulette from the Pine Island Eagle is
Yeah.
listening to us, so I'm sure she'll be
Right.
happy to write about that. That
Right.
sounds like an important story for the island, and it sounds like an important piece of property
It
for
is
the
an
community.
important piece of property, and if we can save it, it'd be great. Yeah.
I just don't understand quite what what's going on with the hearing? They're trying to rezone it, or
So the Calusa Land Trust, are you familiar with the organization? So Lee County has a program called 2020, and it is a program in which we taxpayers voted and agreed to tax ourselves to preserve important lands in our county. This was part of a growth management, but also to protect our environment, to protect our natural spaces. And so the property that Mr. Ballard was talking about is, he says, a prime piece of natural habitat with with pines, and I bet there's a gopher tortoise or two out there. And so he's been working with the landowners to ask them, to have them ask the 2020 program to purchase the property. And so that's what the presentation will be about, is making that case for the 2020 purchase, to purchase the land, because otherwise the homeowners, I'm sure, can sell it and it'll get developed, and that will be just another building or another condo, or you name it, another little piece of paradise lost. So yeah, let's, Bob will give us the information and we'll share that around. So thanks for bringing that up. Any ideas, anything you want to discuss? What bee is under your bonnet today? Come on up.
My bee first. Sorry, I jumped first. Is there anything that this organization, perhaps in partnership with other organizations, can do to work on reducing, because we can't eliminate, but it's a constant process, to reduce the non-native species that really sprang up after past hurricanes? The earleaf acacias, which are up and down Stringfellow like crazy now, and you can look at them and almost see them grow. They grow so fast. And all of that stuff, whether it's earleaf acacia or Australian pines, they're very shallow rooted, and they go down like nobody's business when we have these winds. Sanibel, when I know that's a city, but they really, after Hurricane Charlie, bit the bullet and said, all of that stuff, it's going to go. And people were unhappy because they were
up in arms.
Up
I
in
remember,
arms
yes.
because
that beautiful
all of
canopy
those
was
Australian
gone,
pines.
Yeah.
But that's what has kept.
But they were able to get through the road after the storm.
That's right.
Yeah.
So there is such a volume here when you're stopped in traffic at the light on the one-lane bridge. I'm looking to my left, and there's all these Australian pines that are only about this high. And I really want to get out there with my clippers while I'm stopped and take some herbicide and just clip, 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 and spray, spray, spray. And there's some coming up out of the limestone that's in front of Yucatan.
Is it on Little Pine Island?
Uh-huh. No, it's right by the Yucatan.
So it's not in the preserve areas of the,
No.
Okay. Or
No.
the mitigation bank or.
No,
Okay.
It's everywhere.
It's a good question. Maybe while we're working with the garden club on our seedling giveaway, we can talk about working with them. I don't know what we can do, but it's certainly worth discussing.
Well, you've touched on it in the meeting already, but I would really like to see the organization work on resiliency next year, whether it's looking for grants, best practices, working with other community and environmental groups on the island to come up with an action plan. But if we don't get more resilient, we're not going to have a home.
Mucking and gutting, right? We need to find new ways to do different things. So.
I did want to mention that Sanibel and Captiva have a resiliency foundation or organization. What it is really is just a alliance of different organizations on the island, and they do focus on resiliency. So we've already talked to them about their program, and in the future, if the community thinks this is important, we may want to, I wouldn't say partner with them, but get lessons learned from them. They have a pretty good program. Of course, they have some benefits of being a city, so they can do things without, asking permission.
They are less likely to need a champion. Like we're at the county, we're a small cog, right? So anything we can do to raise our voices.
And that brings up something that just popped into my head from a previous discussion. Has there been any further looking into this idea of it wasn't a city, it was a charter organization or something that we were, there was some other intermediate between.
It was what our last month's speaker discussed. I don't
Yeah.
know if you guys were, some of you were at our meeting, if not the recordings on our Facebook page, but he talked about the idea of, it's not a taxing authority, it was another type of authority. Usually they're taxing authorities, and you're a group of a special district that you form to deal with some zoning and those types of issues. And that was one of the issues we wanted to work with the Matlacha Civic Association on, because they're interested in taking that idea and seeing if it can go anywhere. And then I would give you more information. That's like the sum of what I know. So. All right. Leo, I can't believe you're not going to, say a word tonight.
No, those special tax, we are taxing this.
The speaker said some of them were and some of them weren't, which confused me. So I don't know.
I have never heard of one was.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how it could usurp county zoning rules, but again, we'll learn. All right. I think if there's nothing else, no other comments. As you're thinking about this, we've had some good food for thought, but you can email us anytime at info@gpica.org. If you're on Facebook, you can go to our Facebook page and post your comments in tonight's meeting. We'll take a look at those and we'll add them to our agenda for discussion. And there's the next meeting date, January 7th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. here. And if I can have a motion to adjourn. Ellen and Bob second. We're adjourned. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight, and don't forget to come get your seedlings. Saturday, December 14th at the Garden Club's property at the center. No, you can have more than one. Feel free. We've got 1,000. I don't know what kind of turnout we're going to get. If we have 1,000 people show up, I guess everybody only gets one, but I don't know that that's likely to happen.
Like if an HOA could represent Gary's homeowners, could they get more than 5?
Probably. I mean, again, if we have a lot of people in line, and maybe I might rethink that, but our goal is really to get the pines out there. We want to repopulate. So yeah, I don't think it